Good morning, gentlemen. I'm Madan Singh, and I'm going to talk to you about two of the most important things which are captivating the world. The first, of course, as you all know, is going to be the uh, famous Memorandum of Understanding between Iran and the United States, in which Israel had dissented. And I'll later, toward the end of the video, talk about the ousting of India with the word Indo being removed and the Indo Pacific command being changed to the US Pacific Command. Now, that's a very important thing. We'll discuss that, what's happened behind it. But let's come down to the Memorandum of Understanding, which has been um, put forward by Donald Trump, and he's been touting it as a great victory. I mean, he's just going around. I think whether this man's under delusion, delusion is something when you have a feeling and that you're a great man, something like being a megalomaniac without realizing what the brass tacks, what's really happening. Now, what's happening here is that Iran is proclaiming that they have won. And despite the massive damage which they have suffered, it's a very, very dangerous situation as far as things stand at the moment. Now, I like to draw one simile, one example I like to give of the Treaty of Versailles, which was signed after the First World War, where Germany had to pay millions of pounds as reparations to the victorious powers. That means the loser pays reparations to the winner. But this war is different. The Americans have agreed to pay initially $300 billion to Iran as a compensation for the losses they've suffered. And they have promised that once the war is over, they will release all the blocked money, which runs into hundreds of billions of dollars to Iran. So it's the reverse. In the Treaty of Versailles, it was Germany which was paying to the victors, but here the so-called victor, claimed victor, that is America going to pay the Iranians. Now, why did America go to war with Iran? Basically, it was to save Israel. That cannot be denied. And they have got no confirmation, no assurance from the Iranians that they will allow Israel to peacefully coexist. They still maintain that they have to wipe out Israel from the face of the earth. And they even go and say that the Holocaust was a lie, a fiction. Now, if a nation talks like that, I mean, you can well imagine where it stands. Well, gentlemen, Donald Trump has compounded matters further by making a statement which is absolutely silly. I thought it was very foolish of him to make such a statement. He's gone and said that if I were not there, Israel would cease to exist in the world. Now, what does he mean by this? That means he has a vicarious pleasure putting pressure on the Israelis that, look, you better agree to what I'm saying, otherwise you cease to exist. Things are not that easy. He's thinking he's going to be friends with Iran, he's going to make money there, and maybe, later he's saying he won't invest. Tomorrow he's thinking he invest in American oil, Iranian oil, and make a profit or something out of it. I think it's a very naive way of thinking. Iran has been a hostile nation for the last 45 years as far as America is concerned. They always refer to America as the great Saturn. Do you think they're going to change all that in one clap with Donald Trump going around, shouting that he's won the war and what has he achieved? So, as I told you, the first thing is the Americans are going to pay reparations to the Iranians. The second is there's certain things which the Americans have demanded, and that is they're going to levy a small tax which could run into millions of dollars earning for Iran on the ships crossing the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that's a very silly thing because the battle was to have a free shipping as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned. And if Iran is going to put some tax on it, I mean, it's belies the thing. Secondly, as I told you, they haven't accepted the existence of Israel, its right to live. Thirdly, they haven't handed over the nuclear mission fissile material. And they say that will be at the end of it, we'll discuss. They haven't said we'll hand over. They've said once all the conditions are met, they will then hand over the fissile material. That means they'll discuss it. And as per my information goes, the entire area which is housing this fissile material to make the atomic bombs has been heavily mined. And it's going to be very difficult for the Americans to go there and take anything out. How are the Americans going to do it? Another thing is, America's pet program was the regime change. Yes, regime change. They had killed the Ayatollah and they killed hundreds of the top leadership, killed so many of the generals, but the Iranians had resilience and they fought on. That's to their credit. And they never surrendered. And they have given some irreparable damage to the Americans. So much so that the aircraft carriers did not come within the range of the Iranian missiles. They were sitting somewhere close to Dijo Garcia, and what the hell they were doing there, we don't know. And one of the aircraft carriers, the number one, the flagship of the American fleet, has some mysterious fires inside, and I'm told it's not going to sail again. It's as dead as a dodo. And if at all it comes back into action, it'll take another 2 years. I don't think the Americans are going to spend billions of dollars in refurbishing this ship. And so many of their aircraft have been lost. And the question arises, why did not America win this war? Why were they positioning 50,000 troops all around there, sitting and eating their chow without using them for combat? I think they forgot the cardinal principle of warfare, that to win a war, you need the infantry soldier to hold the ground. And they didn't have the infantry soldiers for the purpose because they're scared of casualties, in particular Donald Trump. And despite the fact they have lost a lot of air crews, so many planes, and millions of dollars have been lost, and they're going to pay another billions of dollars to Iran. And the fact remains that the Americans didn't have the guts to go into battle against Iran. That is the crux. While the Iranian Revolutionary Guard was bristling for combat, I think the Americans were scared of fighting the ground war. That is the crux of the issue. But America missed the bus by a nose foolishness. The time to occupy Iran was just after the killing of Khomeini and the top leadership. That was the time when the Americans, airborne troops along with Israel, should have landed in Tehran, occupied Tehran. And once you occupied Tehran, it would have been all over by the shouting. I give an example, when the Indian army is moving to East Pakistan, the Indians didn't go all out to capture the territory in East Pakistan. There was a paradrop. A para regiment landed in the Dhaka cantonment, captured the GOCNC Eastern Command, and the war was over. So the Americans could have done something similar. They thought they're going to keep bombing, and they're going to win the war. And you can't win war by bombing when you don't have troops on the ground. So, gentlemen, this is one of the very important points. America has achieved nothing by this conflict other than billions of dollars which they have spent, lost in the war, including one aircraft carrier, completely written off. The other aircraft carriers were also hiding near the Dijo Garcia, out of range of the Iranian missiles. And if they had come into battle, well, one or two would have been lost. So the naval strategists must remember that the aircraft carrier itself is a sitting duck. Like earlier the battleship used to be there. And the battleship became obsolete because it couldn't defend itself. There's not, I think, a single battleship in service right now. While during the Second World War, right up to the beginning of the war, there were plenty of battleships going around. And even the Japanese had built one of the biggest battleship in the world, the Yamato, and it sank like a big stone in the Sea of Japan. So, gentlemen, this is the point which I'm coming to, the faulty strategy of the Americans, and the second is the will to fight. Now, one of the principles of war is that you need the will to fight, when the Americans didn't have the will to fight. And that is the fact of the matter. They didn't have the will to fight. And they were thinking they get an easy victory, like you go and attack Madura of Venezuela, capture him, take him away, make him some false charges against him, and put him on trial. You can't do that. I wonder if the Americans had the courage to go and capture the son of Ayatollah Khomeini, Mujtaba Khomeini, and put him on trial in New York. But they couldn't do it. Well, everything is not cut and dried. And what they could do in Venezuela, they couldn't do in Iran. Because Iran is a bigger power, and they were facing a fanatical regime which was going to fight tooth and nail. So, gentlemen, as far as this war is concerned, I'm a little disturbed as a military historian, and the fact that you all know I've written about 4 books on military history. I'm greatly disturbed by the lessons which are coming out. One, air power alone cannot win you a war. That's number one. Number two, you must have the will to fight. Number three, you have to commit ground troops if you want to win a decisive victory. And the Americans were failing on all these 3 counts, and they were just living in the air, and one must remember that bombastic statements, making I'll make reduce Iran to the Stone Age and all that, do not bring victory. And Iran always responded in kind to the threats of Donald Trump. Another very important thing is the decline of American power. Now, all the GCC countries now really know that America just is not a country that can defend them. And now they will have realized that the time to come, the major power is going to be Iran. Iran, of course, I don't know how they're going to deal with Israel because they hate Israel. And when they're going to stop funding the terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah, are they going to stop it? Is there anything in the memorandum there? I don't think there's anything. And what is Iran going to do as far as the nuclear bomb is concerned? They have said they will discuss and not make the bomb. Easier said than done. Donald Trump won't be there after 2 years. He'll be sitting and doing some gardening or maybe, having a ball in life, but that's not going to be easy for him also because he would have been the last effective American president, and that would be the demise of America for all time to come. Gentlemen, this is the stark reality. And despite what the people are talking, and there are some people, who have a lot of glee at the American defeat. I've seen some of the um commentators, in India and even in America and Canada talking with glee at the defeat of the Americans. And they say Iran won the war. Now, let's be very clear, Iran did not win the war. They lost the war, but they won the peace in the sense the Americans didn't have the guts to go into combat again. Had they done it, they would have wiped out Iran. I wish they'd done that. I'm not a warmonger, but the situation is going to be more volatile than ever in time to come. And Iran will rebuild itself. And the fact is that the GCC countries, particularly the UAE and Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, will have to bow to the new emperor that is Iran. Because the Iranians have showed that they can fight. They may have lost the war, as I told you, tremendous damages there, but it's all going to be compensated. Billions of dollars are going to be poured into Iran by the Americans and the GCC countries. This is what Donald Trump has committed. And then after that, the Strait of Hormuz has still not been opened. It's not going to be opened still, toll free. And Donald Trump is talking of taking a 20% fee from the country in the Middle East. Now, I think this about shows the shallowness of the man. He has no comprehension of what is military strategy. And that is what really is bugging the people around. He went to China, but I don't think he achieved anything at all. And his basic thing was to stop the war so he could get a Nobel Prize like Obama. And if the Nobel Committee is really sound and sane and select the proper type of person, I don't think he deserves a Nobel Prize of Peace at all. Gentlemen, I am a little perturbed by this battle which has gone on. Because I'm not a supporter of the Iranian regime. Even now, I'm told, I was listening to a video by General Keane, the ex-chief of staff of the American Army, and he said very clearly that America achieved nothing by this war. The Iranian regime is still killing young people, hanging them because they're the opponents of the regime. And yet Donald Trump is talking of peace. What the hell is he talking of, man? I mean, must be something wrong with this fellow. The Iranian regime is a demonic regime, and they're continuing. Well, let's see what happens now. I have a feeling that the peace deal may collapse in due course of time because Israel is not going to give up. And if Israel has the guts and they know their existence at stake, they'll have to continue the war with Iran. War will continue. And Donald Trump will then have to see what has to be done. He may be sitting on the fence, and let Israel fight the war. But there's got a lot of support for Israel in the United States, and let's see what happens. Coming down to the Eastern Pacific now, one very important decision has been taken that the word Indian has been removed from that, and the Pacific command has been replaced as the U.S. Pacific Command. This was set up in 1947 by President Truman, and now it's back to square one. They're the same one. And the reason for it is that the Americans were convinced that India is not the country which can be belligerent and be along with them. Indians, as usual, were easygoing, taking things for granted, and once you have that sort of an approach, I don't think you're going to win anywhere. India was thinking they're going to put the eggs in the Russian basket and talk of strategic autonomy, which is a lot of sham, really. And if India had the courage, the Indian Navy should have been operating in the Gulf and saved the three ships have disabled and three Indian crewmen were killed. What the hell was the Navy doing there? And if they were there, they would have probably gone to battle with the American fleet, and it would have been disaster for India. So India should have realized the writing on the wall, which they didn't. And thinking of that they're going to be on the side of the Russians is absolutely silly. And people must remember that in 1962, it was Nikita Khrushchev who gave the permission to Mao Zedong to attack India. Now, that's a fact of history, I'm telling you. It was Nikita Khrushchev, and later on he went and made a statement that China is a brother and India's friend. You know the difference between a brother and a friend? So, gentlemen, the Indians are living in a fool's paradise, and that is precisely what it is. I think Narendra Modi should have done better. And the only thing which I've seen which he has done during his last 10 years is that he's made about 115 odd visits abroad. And there's a lot of singing and dancing when he goes along. But that I feel is a little disgusting. He should have been discussing power politics, which he doesn't. And sadly, three Indian crewmen died and he didn't have a word or even one small tweet about them. Now, as far as India is concerned, further, India is trying to play a middle game, but there's no middle game here. And people must realize, I don't know how many people realize, they keep on talking. I get some messages that I'm wrong, the Indian economy is the fourth largest in the world and all that, But must see what is the life of the Indians in India. 20 crore people are below the poverty line. They doesn't have enough food to eat. That's one. Secondly, the per capita income of India is 150 out of 193. That's 149 countries have a better income than India. And India is one of the poorest countries in the world, even poorer than some African countries. Now, that reflects in the national health, where India doesn't win a single gold medal in the Olympics, track and field, and the Chinese go and win 100. Now, you can make your own assumptions, but the fact is India has been removed because of indecisiveness by the Americans from the Pacific Command. And India will become a periphery member, and the Americans are not really very enamored of what India is doing. So, gentlemen, two important things which have happened. The Americans miscalculated as far as Iran is concerned and had to throw in the towel, though they claim victory. And the same thing with the Indians. They have also made serious miscalculations as far as America is concerned. They were thinking they'll get all the technology and India is indispensable, but everything doesn't work out like that. Well, gentlemen, I hope you like this video of mine. Please share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. Give your comment. It'll be very interesting to listen to what you have to say. Because what my comments about India, I think a lot of people may not like it, but the fact is, India is not a global power, and this is something which we must accept. And India should have tied up with any country, but the battle is lost. Well, gentlemen, we'll have to see what is happening now, how the Donald Trump is going to work out, and what's going to happen in Iran. I think the Iranian deal could collapse also because Israel is not on board and the Indians will have a tough time.